Alright, in this chapter 17, Society, Laws and Ethics, this is the second lecture, and this lecture will be related to open source software. So we are going to study what is open source software, the different types, and what are its characteristics, etc. I will add some Mizo explanation in between, okay? And first of all, let us talk about what is open source software. Open source software refers to the category of software or program whose license gives user freedom to use the software for any purpose. So you can use open source software for whatever purpose you need. Okay, it is designed to. And you can study, you can modify the program, or even redistribute the software in its original form or modified form as per the open source software agreement. And there are many examples of open source software, and it is very popular nowadays. And one common example is Linux. So there are various versions of Linux operating systems like Ubuntu, Fedora, etc. They are free to download, they are free to use, and by using or by copying or by distributing this open source software, you are not committing any crime, so it is free. And another example is Firefox, which is very popular, Chrome, which is also popular, VLC media player, and in mobile application or in mobile operating system, I hope you have seen this logo. This logo is the logo of Android operating system. So Android operating system also comes under open source software. So let me explain in Mizo. So open source software kan ti hian poi sape ngai lo do le in copy the do le modify the khang ho software soi na ka ani a open source anti na takhi chu mithiam software engineer te tan khan emo programming thiam te tan khan a source code ka download the torin anda china a source code kha an pechuak phal china chumi source code chu du chuan ti dang lam the ani a amaro chu open source software ang thawa mi puite man the tu la release kha an do dan ani chu tiang software kan soi te zing a chuan Linux atela Firefox atela Chrome atela VLC media player le Android operating system heng ho wi alar zo karon tar lan ania heng ho pa kayan ko ve la yan open source software hi atam to lu tu kani chu open source software chung chang ni mai sila. All right, let's go to the next slide. So the next slide is about free software. So free software are freely accessible and can be freely used, can be changed, can be improved, can be copied or redistributed, and no payment or fee is necessary. It is completely free, and this free software movement is started by Richard Stallman and under Free Software Foundation. And I like this guy very much because he is a software expert, software engineer, and he don't like companies or other private player to charge for software fees or something like that. So we are going to talk about this Free Software Foundation in the coming slides in details. So as of now, I want you to know that free software are also open source software. They are completely free. All right. And next one is freedoms in free software. When we say free software, it means the following. So there are different types of freedom given in that free software. The freedom to run the program for any purpose. This is freedom number 0. And the freedom to study how the program works and adapt it to your needs. This is freedom number 2. And the freedom to redistribute copies that you can help your neighbors. This is another freedom. And the freedom to improve the program and release your improvement to the public so that the whole company benefits, the whole world benefits. I think these are the 4 freedoms given by Richard Stallman when he started Free Software Foundation. So when we say free software, we are referring to the freedom in that software. So that there are four freedom: freedom 0, freedom 1, freedom 2, and freedom 3. All right, these are the different freedoms. And there are some criteria for a software to become open source software. So the criteria are as given below. The first criteria is free redistribution. There should be no restriction on the redistribution of the software, either as a whole or in part. Okay. And second criteria is source code. The program must include the source code as well as the compile code. Source code at the low khan open source software ka ani thailaw ani amar achu inshiat tur chu a source code ka a program akhan an da tel sel nilawin amamo avadil te tan khan a thonin an pe thei tur ti na lampang kha ani a source code ka. Then the next criteria is derive work. It must allow modification and derive work. If the software did not allow modification, it cannot belongs to open source software. So modification must be allowed. The next one is integrity. The integrity of the author source code must be maintained. Any modification must have different names or version. Alright, this is very, very important. For example, you are the software engineer, you obtain the source code, you modified it, and if you simply remove the author names or the original credit, you are violating the open source software. So you must maintain integrity. Any modification must have different names or different version. This is true in case of Linux. So Linux is one operating system developed by Linus Torvald, and it doesn't exist in its original form nowadays because different version, different modifications, different improvement have been applied to the Linux operating system, and they give different names like Red Hat, Fedora, Ubuntu, etc. So these are Linux. Like that, in order to become open source software, there must be integrity and no discrimination. The open source software license must not discriminate any person or a group of person. It may be based on the gender or whatever. It should not discriminate. Okay, this is another criteria. We are going to study about open source licenses in details in the coming slide. And another point and the final point is distribution of license. The right to attach the right attached must apply to all the whom the program is distributed. So as I told you, we are going to study license of open source software in detail in the coming slide. But here I want to say that the open source software must include a license or agreements or terms and conditions which must be agreed or which must be accepted by the person using the open source software. And let's go to the next slide. The next one is FLOSS, FLOSS. This is a short form, and the full form is Free, Libre, and Open Source Software, or Free, Libre, and Open Source Software. So it has two full forms. It refers to the software which is both free as well as open source. Okay, so here I want to talk about the difference between simply free and open source software. In open source software, it should be free, and the source code should also be accessible or available to the person requesting the software or the source code. But in free software, the software may be free, but the source code may not be free. Okay, so I want you to know the difference between free and open source. The term Libre is a Spanish word, and livre is a Portuguese word which means freedom. So when I say flows, we are talking about the freedom in open source software. Now let's go to the main project, which is the GNU project. Okay, so the GNU means GNU is not Linux. So this is the full form. GNU refers to GNU is not Linux. GNU. Okay? These types of abbreviations or these types of short form is known as recursive short form or recursive abbreviation. Okay, recursive. And this GNU project is initiated by Richard Stallman, which I have posted the picture before, and he want to emphasize on freedom of software. And the main objective of this project is to create an operating system. Okay, an operating system. And with time, GNU project expanded, and now it is not limited only to operating system, but it offers a wide range of software and applications. So let me talk a little bit about this GNU project in Mizo. Richard Stallman hian angai dana chuan software man in trin te chuan software leina tur nei lo te po aman in choi tir te hei hi human rights kal ani ti ngai dan kha apu a chu wang reng chuan I amamo apiang ten allo man thei tur software siam chu a hek po ni lo aman choi lawa adu du in anlo man thei tur software he pek chu tur ani ti lampang kha khami freedom kha ama ngai dan ani a chumi chu ron au chu puin GNU project hi aron tranta a khovel hian tran tu po anga maya mithiam tam tak te khan ke pokan lo tel ve ange ke pon chu chu ka lo siam ve ange ti te khan ngai dan an ron nei ta te chuan free software foundation kha an han din ta ni ti chuan khovela a thaw zong in ti mayang ma aron son se la sum a le ngai lo tam tak software aron on pho ta ni hemi awang yan ni lo seng chuan entinan Bill Gates te ngai dan Microsoft te ngai dan angin software siam turin software engineer tam tak paisa sengin ka chora chuwang chuan software man kala ka a lei lo te an lo mang pal ani pon dan kal an ni awangin police akaman tira lungina ka khunga poisa ka choi tir kha ka right ka dikna ani an ti ve thau don ta ni chumi kal chia chia chu tu na Richard Stallman ngai tan chu ani so that's about the GNU project. I hope you understand. So now let's talk about the Free Software Foundation in details, even though I have just explained in Mizo. The FSF is a non-profit organization. They are not like a business organization. They are not a company. They are a non-profit organization like YMA. Okay, so this organization is established for the welfare of the people or other people, not for their welfare. So it is started by Richard Stallman in 1985, and the aim is to support free software and free software movements such as GNU Project and GNU licenses. Nowadays, it also works on legal and structural assets for the free software community. The meaning is that now it is a very big organization, and they also give legal aids or advices to anybody who want to support this Free Software Foundation or anything which is related to Free Software Foundation. All right, let me quickly talk about these things in Mizo language. The reason hemi Free Software Foundation lampang Open Source Software Foundation lampang hi engwangin nge kanzir engwangin nge class 12 syllabus an ronda ti kha ngai to na om china in lo ngai to po ni mai theya achan ni alang pakhat chu khovel hi Free Software Foundation lamai hian akal na satial tialani entenan man lai operating system Microsoft Windows ti te chau lo chu man tur om lo thin kha poisa a le ngai kha kan ram chu kan van nei zo kan ti don nge khatiang pirated software lo mang te po kha tu ma kanin man lawa ko shan biakin thlengin pirated software kan mang ani chuan police aman tu tur te nge nge pan pirated software hi tam takin an lamang in karinga chutiang ani amar chu ram changkang USA vela chuan khatiang an lo mang ani chuan lungina khung thei poisa choi tir thei khani ta an chep em mai ni chutiang mishing dik na ni Richard Stallman in angai chep lutuk technology man na kha free taka kan man the nan kan free software foundation kha aron dina chu chu mitam takina poisa song ten an lo tho in malak na ta nei karon thonge anon tia mithiam zo te son ke pokan lo tel ve nge chu tiang software siamang adu do in free an lo man the tan ti te ka tiang khan na sa de win man ran la chu chu khovela adar zela india po hi india po in India siam operating system tam tak te kha aron nei ta chung ho chu mang chozel tai la Microsoft Office PowerPoint Excel kan ti te po hi mang to loin open of office te mang chozel tai la ti vel kha khovel kal phung khovel kha khatiang lampanga akala fangin I think because of that they are adding this into your syllabus. All right, now let's go to the next slide. The next slide is about open source initiative. This is another initiative taken by two persons, and it is founded by Bruce Perens and Eric Raymond. Bruce Perens is on the left side here, and Eric Raymond is on the right side here. They started open source initiative just like Richard Stallman, but they started only in 1998. Okay, they aim the main aim of their open source initiative is promoting open source software. So they are closely related. Richard Stallman started open source free software foundation and advocate and want to popularize open source software. And in order to strengthen their initiative, these two guys started open source initiative to promote open source software. So the OSI have different meanings, but in open source software we are referring to open source initiative. Okay, so the OSI defines and specifies criteria, terms, and conditions and for the open source software. So therefore, distribution of open source software must comply with the open source software definitions, which is given by open source initiative. All right. I hope you understand. So here I have one quick quiz. Free Software Foundation is started by, I hope you understand, Bill Gates, Richard Stallman, Guido van Rossum, Mark Zuckerberg, and the correct answer is Richard Stallman. And how many freedoms are there in Free Software Foundation? I hope you know this. And there are 4 freedoms. Freedom starting from 0, freedom 1, freedom 2, and freedom 3. There are 4 freedoms in Free Software Foundation. Now let's talk about freeware. We already talked about free software. Now let's talk about freeware. Freeware is a software which is available for free or cost without any licensing fee. It can be copied and distributed or shared without any modification because the source code is not included. In some instances, it is free for private and commercial purpose only. For example, Chrome, Firefox, etc. are free software. And when you say free software, it is different from freeware. Okay, when you say freeware, there is no source code available, and the freeware are usually given out to advertise their company or to advertise their software. Freeware, after a long period of uses, the software developer can charge by releasing the professional version. Okay, freeware are only to give some advertisement or some trial to the customers. Okay, freeware le free software hi hriat hran tur ani a freeware kan ti hi chuan eng software pawh games pawh lo ni thei a thlawna kan hman thei te kha an ni tlang puya source code a tel lo ani a ti dang lam thei lo ani man top kha a free ani maya a bak kha phal ani lo copy le midang pek chon te chu phal ani tho ta a amaro chu chu mi an phal dana pawh chuan free for private and non-commercial use ti te kha an tar lang kher thin ani kha tiang freeware kha a free ni lo mang theya sum don nan khan man mi lo tur kha tiang i mang ani chuan dan bo chiat na kha ani vele zel ta ni freeware chu so I hope you understand. Now let's go to W3C. W3C means World Wide Web Consortium. So this is also an organization created in 1994 for producing software standard related to www. So when we say www, it is related to internet. The world of internet as of now is the result of action taken by W3C. W3C defines the internet should be have like this or something like that. The different software which is to be used in the internet. So this is the World Wide Web Consortium. So it is an industry consortium, vendor neutral, that seek to promote standard for evaluation of web and interoperability by producing specifications and reference software. All right. So let me explain in Mizo for clarity. W3C kan ti hian company pakhat nga ngai ta ila samkua pali kuma din ani until tumper chu tuna internet kan man te hi a that le chual na na malak ani deuh per mai mi so tong in soita ila chuan an malak dana chuan internet company te khan website te khan lo nei ta ani lo le software ten lo mang ta an ma ni software mang tu te tan cha man thei tur an da ang chi te kha tra an ti lo ta ni chu wang chuan www a software man tur re chu tiang ani tur ani ti standard te khan lo siam ta interoperability ti zia chu antenna Apple company mang tu tena an visit thei tur software le an man thei tur software a ta chung chu internet ko vela chuan anin la sang tur ani lo Windows mang tu te po khan kha website khan visit thei tur ani anin man trom thei tur ani in man trom thei na antenna Apple software mangin internet i access anga email kha Apple ho a chau thon tur ani lawa Windows ho panan lo check thei turin thon tur ani ai man trom thei tur ani chuan chat poni se WhatsApp te poni se khatiang Windows manga achau man tur ani ti kha big lo turin interoperability lampang kha until boy pui le standard tam tak kha until boy pui chu ani so thui ta ila HTML i software website siam na ni ta ni hei po hi standard fia tu onom lo chuan programming siam thiam na zongin hetiang zong ati thei tin an du dan dan an ti dang lam mai kha chuan adik don lo wa chu wang chuan khatiang standard siam tu kha W3C hi ani ti kha hriat tur ani. Alright, now let's talk about proprietary software. Proprietary software is the software that is neither open nor freely available. It is a paid software. It is regulated and distributed or modification. Its use is regulated and distribution or modification is forbidden and required special permission by the supplier or the developer. Okay, source code of proprietary software is normally unavailable. So this means that these are the paid software or the commercial software. Okay, you cannot copy or you cannot distribute without the company license or without the developer license. So atoy zongin software li ngai chi iwa mang lui ni chuan dan bo chiat na khatiang chi kha proprietary software chu ani deuh ber mai shareware hi sei le lok tai la. Now let's talk about shareware. It is a copyright software that is made available for individual for free or on trial basis for certain period of time. Shareware can be shared, redistributed freely, but it cannot be modified because the source code is not included, and the users need to purchase after the trial period is over. So this is the characteristics of shareware. Uh, for example, this is very popular in games. So they release the games to whatever who want to play. So we can play that games for 30 days or something like that. It is a trial period to advertise their games. After that period, the games cannot be played or something like that. And we need to purchase it. Alright, that type of software is known as shareware. And copyleft software. So copyright, I hope you know, copyright is protected software, and copying and using of copyright software is prohibited. So let's talk about copyleft. Copyleft software is a general method for making a software free and requiring all modification and extended version of the program to be free as well. It seals the program and it modified the version for making proprietary or paid software. So in short or in brief, copyleft software is the opposite of copyright software. So as per the copyleft software, the software should be made free, and if you modify or create a new version, that new version should also be copyleft again. You cannot charge for money or something like that. So that is copyleft software. In Mizo, copyright software sukan siya software dan ka free ta ka man te lo ho le ngai ho kan nita copyleft ani ve thung chan le ngai me lo open source software lampang ka ako ka copyleft software henan ngai poi mo pakhat chu ilo mang ilo siam thiama ilo modify ani pon chu I modify chu copyright free in midang tene nei pe chong sel turani poisa mu nan te mang lo turani ti ka ani here we have the symbols. This is copyright symbol C, and this is copyleft symbol, which points to the opposite direction. All right. Um, let's see a quiz. How many freedoms are there in the Free Software Foundation? I think the questions I made it wrongly, so let's leave it about it. And the Spanish word for freedom is libre. Okay. And the Free Software Foundation was started in the year, I hope you know, 1985. And in which year the Open Source Software Initiative was founded? It is only in 1998. Okay. And that's all for this lecture. Um, if you have any questions, you can ask me. All right.